The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it's Monday in the Riv, and a rainy Monday. Well, now the grass is growing. It's been humid as hell, and now the grass is growing.
I'll tell you, this weather doesn't know what it wants to do. We're going to get rain today and rain tomorrow. So
yeah, and it rained just a few days prior. Then we're going to get more rain later on. It's like it's been a pretty bad August. It's either humid and sticky or it's raining. It's crappy.
Hey, we need the water, though. Let's be real.
We need the water, true. But then again, I don't really like it because now my backyard went from being nice and totally burnt out where I didn't have to cut grass. I got a jungle now I have to cut. So.
Oh, poor Chipper.
That's right. I got to go out and cut the damn jungle. And look, it's like, and you can't cut it now because it's wet. So you're going to go out there and stand.
You'll have to cut it when it's nice and humid, hot and sticky.
That's right. I go out in the evening. Well, Greater Fall River stores see boost in business during sales. What a surprise, right? What a surprise.
I'm totally stunned. Now that's economic development.
I'm stunned. I'm stunned. They've got somebody here that. An individual went and bought a freezer because he said, he said they gave a 10% discount in addition to no taxes. He said, I just had to do it. And he said, I got to do it was his quote. Got to do it. He wasn't alone. Yeah, and remember, everybody, the reason I'm bringing this up, because, I mean, look, even somebody with limited degree of analytical ability could figure that if you're going to get something cheaper, you have a greater tendency to buy it. Our state reps for 2 years said no to sales tax, because the sales tax holiday, because they were too busy trying to fund their pay raises and all their other pet projects, and we couldn't afford to give the people who they represent a break. And I have to admit, I took advantage of the sales tax holiday. Yesterday I went and bought some items. I went to 2 or 3 stores and bought some things. And I'll tell you, I might have put those off for another week or a month or whatever, but I didn't. It gave me a little impetus to get up and go out and shop at 3 or 4 stores and buy some things that
I did the same thing. Saturday I was out, I was shopping. I was picking up things, and the best part about it was I was out shopping Saturday for things that I was going to need anyhow. Yeah. I was going to need them anyhow, but to say, even if it was to save 6 cents or 8 cents or whatever the case may be, I didn't mind. So I went out shopping, and I spent in one store $60 that I wouldn't normally have spent. And then I went to another store and spent $189 that I wouldn't normally spend. And I went to another store. Yeah. So, and I did all of that on Saturday, and it was crazy.
Yeah, oh, yeah, and the stores were mobbed. When I went in, as a matter of fact...
I went in early, and they were mobbed.
I mean, they were mobbed. I went in, and, I buy sneaks periodically because when the cushioning on them, when I'm on a treadmill and stuff like that, doesn't last forever. And even though they look okay, they're not giving you your knees the protection. So I was scheduled to go in a not-too-distant future looking for some new pair of sneakers. And I went up there, and I walked into the store. It was like, buy one, get another one at half price. So guess what? I bought 2 pairs.
That's right.
So this is the thing. Like this guy said, well, they gave him some time, and he bought something. Now, I could have probably waited, because actually the ones I'm using now aren't that old. I'll probably get a few more months out of them. But then these businesses got a nice uptick in their business, and a lot of people bought a little extra. Like I did, I bought another pair because what the heck? I might as well get a pair for half price.
Yeah,
I'm going to buy another one.
I went to a store and I bought an item that I always pick up all the time, and it was buy one get one free. Yeah. So I ended up buying 4.
Yeah.
I bought 2 and I got 2 free. And you know what? I said, hey, I don't have to pay the tax on it.
Yeah.
And I'm getting 1 for free. So, of course, that's the way it works.
Yeah.
Now, local businesses like Sabre TV always says that this is where they make their money.
Yeah.
They sell a lot of stuff on these tax-free holidays. I'm wondering how he did.
Probably did. Well, see, but that's the thing. People don't, our state representatives apparently who were trying to, supposedly help us and help our economy, not only do they don't care that, that they're not giving us any ability to save a couple of dollars in our wallet that they're always picking our pocket for their pay raises and employing all their friends and relatives in the city and on a state level. They don't understand it. That was the concept of malls. They have a big anchor store that draws people in, and they figured that other people will come in, and then they'll go to the other stores, the satellite stores. And it worked for years until they got too lazy to leave, and now they're doing all the shopping online. But the reality is that was one of the concepts of sales. They put a couple of items on sale to get you in the store. And then they figure while you're wandering around the store, you may buy something else. And that's true.
And it worked.
And it works. And it always works because, how many times have you been in a store? Or, I've been in a store and I'm walking around and I'm going, hey, I'm here to pick up this and that. Then I go, oh, something. Yeah, I think I'll grab some of that. Since I'm here, I might as well grab it. And before you know it, you've spent a little extra money. The people, the stores make more money. It helps the economy. And, but heaven forbid that our legislators put us first, even though they're constitutionally bound to be our representatives, not our, and this is an exact word in part of the first section 5, our substitutes.
Right.
Yeah, that's all they are. They're just subbing for us. We're the first stringers. The taxpayer is supposed to be the first stringers.
Well, interesting about this whole tax-free weekend, I went to a couple of big box stores. I went to Best Buy, for instance, and I walked through the front door, and what did they have right at the front door? All the big screen TVs. They had them all right there at the front door. They weren't playing any games. Yep. They put them right at the front door, and I'll tell you, people are walking in, they'll look at that price, and I'll take that, and boom, right off to the register it went. And they were moving stuff, and that was first thing in the morning. Yeah. I happened to stop at Walmart, again, another big box store, and the register, they don't open many registers, number one. They had maybe 3 or 4 registers open because they have everything self-service now, which I don't believe in, but hey, what can you do? But they had lines on the registers, all of them, self-serve or otherwise. And this was first thing in the morning. People weren't waiting, so people were out to spend money. And what's that? That's what you call economic development. That's true economic development, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, it's small business is the economic engine. The reality is that these big multinational conglomerates and stuff like that, like Amazon, like I said, what do we got? 24 people working there, 16 people working there, and they make it a big deal. And half the people, 97% of the people, or better, 98% of the people who work in that place don't even live in Fall River. They don't shop in Fall River. They don't support small businesses in Fall River. And the reality is, Fall River, the economic engine was always stimulated by small business. Fall River was a viable city when every store on Pleasant Street was bustling on Saturdays, and every store on Main Street had traffic on people went shopping to the stores. They supported the small business, and it stimulates the economy. It stimulates everything, and it fuels the economic engine. But obviously, our people, our representatives, quote unquote, in the city and everything else, they've got these grandiose plans that really don't work. You don't see, and how many times have you ever read of a city that went out of business because one small business went under? I never have. But I can tell you what, I've read hundreds of articles over the years of cities being decimated when the only employer in the community was one large business. Look what happened when the auto industry went belly up in Flint, in Detroit. Look what happened in the Midwest when major steel manufacturers in Pittsburgh went under, when American Steel went in a toilet. Look what happened when the tractor industry went in a tank because they're buying overseas goods. That's when you see communities go under, because 85% of their workforce was employed at that particular Fall River when the mills went under. When the mills started moving to North Carolina. And then in North Carolina, when they moved over to Bangladesh or wherever they went, or Mexico or wherever they go. When you're dependent on a small business is fundamentally, especially in a city like Fall River, you know, major cities like New York City and Boston, they truly don't need a lot of business. They survive because they're the capitals and the hubs of their states. So all the companies are headquartered there. So the companies pay mega taxes. I mean, where are all the big insurance companies based and stuff like that? You go to New York City, yeah, there's business, but there's a lot of corporate headquarters, banks, and other things that are not. So they don't need small business as much as Fall River and smaller cities. That's the economic engine. And remember, always remember, that our state delegation was firmly behind not giving us a break. And look at the positive impact. Especially Senator Michael Rodrigues. That's right. And who's running unopposed, by the way. Yeah, of course. They're all running unopposed. Yeah, except for Carol Fiola. Yeah, except for Carol Fiola. Yeah, so, you know, again, we see government at its best, you know, draining the people and doing nothing for them. And that brings me into the next one I'm looking at here, which I always like, and because I love the theme of government doing nothing but taking your money. Battleship Cove is in desperate need of repairs. I have a problem with this one. I have a major problem. Well, you know what this begs? This is the big headline up here. In case you people can't read it, it's written. It's a Herald News article. It'll be on the Herald News. And written by Kevin O'Connor. Yeah, there's a bigger headline. You can barely see it now on this thing, but yep, okay. Governor Baker has $5 million that could help. Do we ever maintain anything? No. Is there anything that we ever maintain on any level? But here's my problem local, with this. I don't care. Government's job is to tax you, override, to build things like schools, and then let them fall in disrepair. Don't touch them. Pay somebody, have a maintenance department, pay them, let them collect a paycheck, and get overtime, and retire, and they never did anything. Yeah, my problem. You know, I mean, every single building in Fall River, every building, even though we have a city ordinance that requires the Department of Community Maintenance to maintain buildings. Even though the school department has its own maintenance department, we see the deplorable conditions of all the schools. Now Battleship Cove is in need of repair. Well, I'll tell you something. Probably 25 years ago, because they don't spend any money. They keep it and they spend it on their pay raises. Because I don't know, maybe it was even longer. About 25 years ago, I actually dove at the Big Mamie to recover anodes that retard rust. They got the fire department dive team, donated their time. We went there on a Saturday, and we dove to recover these anodes, which are very, like 14 or 15 foot long rods made of silver and some other metal, a bimetallic thing that supposedly inhibits corrosion, and virtually every single one of them had rotted away and fallen into the silt. Now, if they would have hired a company to do that, it would have cost them thousands and thousands of dollars to get a recovery company to recover them. We spent all day diving on a Big Mamie. We recovered all those anodes, and it wasn't easy. We had to dig through the silt, and there's silt that's you can be over your head in silt around there. And we spent all day. We recovered them, and at no cost, and all volunteer. Nobody got overtime. Nobody got anything. We recovered it. I think that's about the only maintenance they ever did on that thing, and that was 25 years ago. So I don't know what they do, because they get, they're supposed to have budgets to maintain these things. And I know somebody got paid. There's somebody that's got to be maintained. Like I said, we have a maintenance department in the city. We have an ordinance that says that they are required to maintain all city buildings. We've got a maintenance department in the school department, and we look around and everything. If the government owns it, if it's subsidized by the government, I can guarantee you they build it and just let it fall apart again.
Exactly.
Then they come to you to pay more taxes to build a new one.
Here's my problem with this one. The Battleship, Massachusetts, the Big Mamie as it's known, went into dry dock a few years ago and was repaired. They brought it back. That was done with private money. Why? Because the Battleship Cove, all those ships are not government owned. They are not owned by the city. They are not owned by the state. They're not part of DCR. They're a private entity. But we're going to give another private entity $5 million. $5 million tax dollars. A private entity. This is getting to be ridiculous. We've got a rowing club that's opening up that's using tax dollars to open up. Because if you don't row, if you're not part of a rowing club, you can't get into a high-end university like Harvard or Yale. Come on, get real.
You also need the grades, and there's also quotas for various things.
I don't know where Paul Schmidt's head was when he was saying that.
Well,
but
in Westport,
must have been up one of his cows.
In Westport, in his cow farm.
Exactly.
He was probably sniffing the manure too much, and he got overcome.
But I have a severe problem with this.
Yeah, so do I, and I've got a real problem, and it's highlighted again because we hear this name all the time. This is a quote from this article. The Battleship Cove Museum is the hub of our waterfront, unquote, said State Senator Michael Rodrigues, who sponsored the bill. They are in need of some assistance. Well, Michael, I hate to tell you this, but the people with no jobs in Fall River need assistance.
Yeah.
Why didn't you sponsor a bill for $5 million to train people to get employed in the city of Fall River? You know why? Because I'll bet you some of the people that are going to be involved in doing these repairs can't contributed to your campaign. You are a political hack. Have been and always will be, and soon you will be, scary, the most powerful senator in the state of Massachusetts. And so far, all you've ever done is take care of special interest groups.
And yourself.
And yourself, like the rail trail. Because I still have the article that said you were at the top of the list of people taking the most perks in Boston. So this is what we have. This is what you elect, and this is what you don't run against. Nobody runs. Nobody runs. As I said, we have a monarchy here. You can say what you want. But they are not your representatives. They are a class of royals, because they can do any damn thing they want, and they can give you the business all day, and nobody pays attention. Can anybody figure this out? It's right there for you in the article. Again, a private company getting $5 million of tax money to take care of something. Well, they're a private entity. You go to the bank and ask them for a free loan. Hey, I really need the money. I'm the hub of my neighborhood. Can I get $5 million to build a palatial estate? Because I'm the hub of my neighborhood. So these rich guys who own this are going to get your tax money, while we have people that could use $5 million in training and maybe learn how to be a pipe fitter or a welder or something, or learn computer skills so they can get a job. But no, to hell with the working people. The hell with the working people.
Of course. Well, We spoke a little bit about this last week, about the Redevelopment Authority not knowing what the hell they were doing. And now, Joe Good writes an article talking about the permitting process is a long and complicated effort that involves a number of state and local approvals. Yet, only one member of the Redevelopment Authority knew what he was talking about, and he goes, what are we voting for? What are we voting for? Nobody knew what they were voting for.
Who cares?
Right. They were voting on an RFP to build a 120-slip marina and a pier, and they didn't know what it was going to look like. They have no idea what they're going to do. And they said, well, this way the people who lease it can decide what they want to do. No, it's the Fall River Pier. It's not John Q. Public Lease Pier. And personally, I don't think we should be leasing it out. I think the city should run the pier.
Yeah, no, well, I mean, I don't know. To suggest that government runs anything is kind of, it's crazy. But I understand your concept, you know, that we should not be giving all this money and letting private entities run.
That's right, because you know what's going to happen?
I understand that. But I mean, look at the choice. It's like making a choice between bubonic plague and cholera. You know, when you put somebody in that position to make those choices, it's like a choice between bubonic plague and cholera. Because, you know, who cares? You know, nobody cares about John Q. Public. Nobody cares about the little guy because, you know, like you said, they don't know what the hell they're even voting on. And they know it's irrelevant because they're going to do whatever the hell they want anyway,
exactly,
regardless. And that brings us back to the next. Who cares about the little guy, John Q. Public? My segue. Dedication sought for Ralph Small and David Weed. Now, David Weed was somebody who was involved in the Partners for a Healthy Community. Dr. David Weed, Massachusetts Department of Mental Health for 33 years. Well, Mike, I commend you for being a doctor and for working.
He was a physiologist.
Physiologist. And working for 33 years, but you retired from the state, okay, Massachusetts Department of State, and I have been told that this man doesn't even live in Fall River.
He lives in Warren or Portsmouth.
He doesn't even live in the state, and we're going to dedicate something in the city of Fall River to him. That's manure, absolute manure. I want to see you dedicate it to somebody who worked the longest time in a sweatshop in Fall River. Because to me, that person is worth a hell of a lot more than some guy who lived in Rhode Island, grabbed a state paycheck for 33 years, and is now going to retire, and we're going to name something after him like he did something for the community. He worked for the state. It wasn't even in Fall River. It was the state. He worked for the Department of Mental Health.
No, he also worked for Fall River. He worked for Fall River in City Hall. And he also had a TV show here at.
Well, that explains it. That explains it.
Community Media.
You know, the Department of Mental Health, I don't believe is a city
I just
agent.
was corrected. Weed lives in Warren, Rhode Island.
Well, it's Rhode Island.
It's still Rhode Island.
Rhode Island. So let's name something after the person who worked the longest in the mills. I want, you know, let's get somebody who worked for 60 years in a sweatshop. And raised a family and contributed to this city's economy by shopping here, because I'm sure that even if he worked in City Hall, he didn't shop a hell of a lot in Fall River if he lived in Warren. So he didn't, you know, so what is he, because he was a doctor? Well, yeah, I respect the fact that he's a doctor, but I don't care, because most of those doctors take their money and they run to Rhode Island or they run to some suburb, and they don't. What do they contribute? They're making good money.
I'm getting tired of naming things after people who are still alive.
And that's the other factor. Because what happens if Dr. Weed gets busted in 2 years for something, and then he's on trial? Not that he will, and I'm not casting an aspersion. I'm just saying a what if. What if? What if he gets arrested for something and now we have to unname it? Because that's happened before.
Right.
That's happened before when they name people. You know, if you want to name something after somebody,
let them be dead so they can't do anything wrong.
let them be dead. At least they can't get into any trouble later on. You know, just think of how many buildings would have had to have been erased that were named the Buddy Cianci this and the Buddy Cianci that after he got jailed.
Right.
How about in our own state? How many speakers of the House?
Oh, exactly.
If we name things after living speakers of the House, it would be, it's crazy. But like I said, when naming things in Fall River after people, it almost justifies, and I know you were adamantly opposed to it, when they named that little overpass bridge over somebody that worked for DPW.
Right.
But at least the guy worked for the city.
Right.
And he worked for something that would help everybody, And he was there every day, and he lived in the city, and he paid taxes, and I don't know. This is just naming people. It's like naming you name it after all the state reps. When Bob Correa became mayor, named everything after various reps and things like that. And it's like, well,
Well, and that's the second part of that article deals about renaming the area around the Mary Fonseca School to the Ralph Small area. Yeah. Because the Mary Fonseca School was the what school? It was the Ralph Small School.
That's right.
It was the Ralph Small School.
Yeah.
And they should have never changed that name. Just like the Slade School. They changed the name of it to the Carlton Maveris School.
Who's still alive, by the way.
Another one who's still alive.
And why? Because a state rep became mayor and he wanted to get the state rep? This is baloney. What did these state reps do for us when they were in? Virtually nothing. Fall River has always been, well, as I said, if they ever gave the state of Massachusetts an enema and they want to find where to put the enema tube, what they use as a guide is Fall River's the left cheek and New Bedford's the right cheek. That's what they think of us in Boston. We are the armpit of this state. We always get the least of anything. And it's not because we haven't had power in Boston to bring anything down here. Because now we got Mike Rodrigues, who's like the second most senior senator. Bob Correa, our mayor that was up there for 30 years, was the majority whip, which is the second most powerful position in the House of Representatives. And how much more did we get when he had those positions? Not much, because up there it's all about politics. You listen to the Speaker, if you're a rep, and you listen to the President of the Senate, if you're a senator, and you play politics. You don't take care of the people, and that's one of the problems. The problem is that these people do not work for us. They work for special interest groups, and again, refer to that article about $5 million. Who did it come from? The same guy that interceded on the rail trail.
To create another road.
To create a they bulldozed it and made it into a road, like that. You like that song?
They paved paradise and
made
built
it
up a parking lot.
Even though our mayor assured us that would not happen because the voters didn't want it. So the rail trail, it's on the record. An individual in Boston said he went in there and exerted political leverage to get that opinion changed. And now he's going to give private entities $5 million. Like I said, Senator Rodrigues, I want to see $5 million for training programs in the city of Fall River. I want to see people being taught to be welders, being taught to be pipe fitters, being taught skills that they can market and get a job, because that's what will put Fall River back to work. Not having you take care of your rich friends.
That's for sure. Well, thanks for watching, everybody.
Stay angry, everybody.
And remember, we'll see you on Wednesday.